All right, today we are looking at chapter 1, section 3, what affects your health, all right? The first thing we're going to really look at is something called your heredity, all right? This is the biggest factor probably in your life, day in, day out, and every day you look in the mirror, all right? This is something you cannot change, all right? And they are controlled by what we call your genes or your genetics, okay? As we know, most of you maybe know, you have 23 chromosome pairs, blah, 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 blah. And within those chromosomes, they control a lot of what you do, look like, act like, and everything else. All right? Some of those things in particular that it controls your height. 80% of your height is controlled by your DNA, all right, or your chromosomes or your genes, okay? Also controls your body type, eye and skin color. This is why you normally cannot change them, all right? Obviously, you get half your genes from your father and half the genes from your mother. And the thing that kind of negative thing that comes with this, sometimes you're going to be subjected to these different diseases, all right? First thing I have on here is called the factor V clotting disorder, all right? This isn't in your book, but my wife's friend has factor V clotting disorder. She actually has to take Coumadin on a regular basis. Coumadin is a blood thinner. It's what they also refer to as like what they call an autoimmune disease, all right? Basically, it's almost like her body attacks itself a little bit, and it's something you got to be very careful with. Coumadin is something where even the slightest cut, they have to worry about them possibly bleeding out. Um, so it's something that's very serious. It's something you got to be very aware of. And part of the reason I put this on there is that she has a daughter that's my daughter's age, and she also has the factor V, means that it is genetic, all right, and controlled by genes. And one that more people are familiar with is heart disease. Heart disease definitely seems to be something that be controlled by genes. A young friend of mine growing up, his dad died at the age of like 39, 40. He was a gym teacher as well. And just working out, good shape. I mean, I remember his dad very well. He passed away when I was 2 years or in second grade, and he was a very, very fit man, and still ended up dying of heart disease because whatever genetics fell into that. So it is very much a very very real that these genetics factor into these things. All right, another thing that factors into what affects your health is your environment, where you live. Can be such things as your community, the house, your family, and your neighbors, all right? Some communities that people live in, obviously, we're kind of one of these communities where the environment we live in is a lot different than people that live in, say, eastern North Dakota, where they don't have transient population, and there's nothing wrong with a transient population. But we do have different things that we have to deal with. We also have a production plant outside of town. Some people would say that causes pollution, that causes different health effects, all right? That's just an example, okay? Um, the house you live in, your family, your neighbors. More specifically, we're going to talk about the physical environment a little bit. And when you talk your physical environment, we're really looking at what air and water quality you have around you. Most people settled way back when, before they had all these great things called water towers and water lines and water companies. They had to find places where the water was accessible. And, I guess air quality probably wasn't such a concern because they just didn't have the technologies and the manufacturing that we do nowadays. But these things are very serious factors when people choose where to live. Air quality, you guys remember I talked about the coal plants a little bit. Air quality definitely affects people that may have asthma and things of that nature. It is something that people have to be aware of. I know there's people and different people I've known over my lifetime where they moved to different places because of the effect that the air quality has on their children if they has asthma and things of that nature. Water quality. When you talk water quality nowadays, you're really looking at what possible things can cause ground contamination, right? People that live in the country often use well water, and what they're concerned a lot of times now is that possible chemical leaking through the ground to get to these wells, all right? Does it happen? Yes. Does it happen as much as people probably think it does? Probably not. But it's something that a person must be aware of, and obviously for health reasons, you need to know what's going on. Within this, you also have what we're going to call your social environment. Oh, you guys don't like to be social at all, do you? And this effectively brings in your siblings, friends, classmates, and neighbors, all right? Obviously, your siblings, you cannot control what they're like. However, your interaction with them, you can control, all right? Your friends, we know friends can be your best friend one day and your worst enemy the next. That is part of your age group. Classmates, okay? Some people go, what's the difference between friends and classmates, all right? Friends are people that you actually associate with and do stuff with. You can have classmates that you know and get along with just fine, but you're not going to go out of your way. You're not going to probably do a whole lot with them outside of school. But there's still people you may know, and like we said, it's part of your environment. You got to interact with them. And neighbors, obviously, neighbors are the people that live around you or in your community. And most of you know that your neighbors, you're going to know your neighbors one way, shape, or form or another, and that you have to be able to interact with them to get along. All right, let's talk about the health choices. All right, health choices are just that. They're choices. They're under your control, okay? Whether or not you choose to participate and believe in them, these are totally under your control. Now, some of you are going to look at this next one and say, well, how is this under my control? Well, it kind of is, all right? You look at your family and friends, all right? I know there's an old saying out there, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And to a degree, that is true. However, how you interact with your family and friends is kind of up to you. All right. And with the family aspect, there's a thing you probably do and you don't even realize it is what we call your cultural background. All right. I think of this in the sense of, I'm of a Norwegian descent and different things that I believe. And, it's the old saying, oofta. All right. For those of you that don't know, oofta is kind of like that's hard work. Without saying it's like oofta, like that's putting a little strain on you. All right. This can also affect what holidays you believe in, what foods you believe in, and what activities you believe in. Obviously, if you're Norwegian in this area, the word lutefisk, some people cringe when they hear it, other people get a smile on their face when they hear it. It's different for everywhere. Your cultural background sometimes has a lot to do with what your beliefs, even such simple things as education are. People of Norwegian background, going back to the good old days, as some people would say, back to the 18 and 1900s when they first migrated to North Dakota in this part of the country, Norwegians were very, very, very religious people. And because of that, under Norwegian law, or Norwegian law, when they were growing up, they had to read. So when they came to the country, they had to be able to read because they believed that they had to read the Bible to be, part of the church, all right? Like I said, I'm not promoting religion here. I'm just saying that was the belief of those people at that point in time. That is how their cultural background affects them. You get in southern North Dakota where you had the more German or Russian German background, they didn't put the belief system in education, and education did not pick up in that part of the state until later on once they were more well established in the area. Go along with that, friends. Friends can have positive effect. That positive effect may include help make good choices. Listen to one another, all right? These are very simple things, but friends can also do a great job of helping you through whatever you may be going through, as little or as big as it may seem to you at the time, all right? The other thing that goes along with that is they can also help you make negative choices, all right? And some of those negative choices may be choose alcohol. Obviously you're getting the age now, and some of you maybe already have known or have consumed alcohol yourself. Whether you make that choice or not, it is a negative choice because A, you're not of age, and B, you are not physically and mentally ready to handle that. The last thing we're going to talk about a little bit in there is what we're going to call risky behaviors, okay? This kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about, maybe the choice to choose alcohol. Could be smoking, could be drugs, could be taking unnecessary risks, such as, trying to jump a bike off of a roof or something like that. There's a bunch of things that people can do, but then you got to make sure it's a choice that you can do, all right? If it's not safe and not sound for everyone around you, you don't do it. Last thing we're going to talk about is the media, okay? The media definitely has an effect on your health. Believe it or not, it is one of the most powerful sources of information out there. If you ever watch the Super Bowl, some people watch just to see the ads because guess what? They're putting millions of dollars into those 30-second segments that they get to show commercials on, all right? What they're really trying to get you to do is evaluate their information so that you will buy their product, okay? And like I said, they want you to buy the product they are promoting, okay? Like I said, they're paying millions of dollars to put those products in those spots. And guess what? Obviously it works because people drink a lot of Mountain Dew, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nike, Under Armour, all those companies. I mean, Doritos is one of the big ones now, and other alcohol products that are promoted a lot that you see on TV. Like I said, they're trying to get you to evaluate the product and make an informed decision so that you will want to buy their product. We're not talking $1 million industry, we're talking $1 billion industry, billions of dollars of industry, all right? And they're one of the most powerful groups out there right now is the media, all right? And a lot of people are using that to their advantage. Okay, and like we said, this affects your health in many different ways because how many have seen something on TV and kind of like, I want to try that? Maybe a new snack that they came out with, maybe an energy drink, a power drink, a new type of Doritos chips or new potato chip, whatever it may be. They are out there to affect, and it's going to affect your health. Because guess what? Maybe it's not good for you. Maybe you got to make that choice. All right. So that wraps up section 3. It's a pretty short section, pretty easy. Just make sure you take the time to go back through and read it. And then we'll talk more about it in class tomorrow. All right. See you then. Bye.